Welcome to another week of painting with me, Baileytillotson. I'm super excited we're doing this cute bunny. But before I start, I just want to say that if you are someone that is wanting to dip your toe a little bit more into watercolor, but don't want the pressure of figuring out what to paint, I have a floral watercoloring book that has 25 outlines that I have created for you with 14 now tutorials that go along with them. So if you haven't checked that out, it is in the comment section. But without further ado, let's get going. All right, let's jump in. I am using a size 8 medium round tip brush, and we're just going to do the roses first, kind of randomly along the bottom. And I'm just using a cute pink and mixed a little bit of orange into it to make it more of like a peachy color. But it's going to be like a medium tone at first, and then we're going to dip a darker red into the middle. So with roses, what you want to do is start from the middle, and you're going to do like little C motions. As you go outwards, you want your petals to get a little bit bigger each time, but you want to make sure that you're leaving a little bit of white space in between each layer. That kind of just shows a little bit more depth and separation of your petals. So as you do that, you can figure out how big you want your flower. So I'm just going to do a few layers of petals, and then while it's still wet, you want to come in with a darker color and just dab it right into the middle. And if you want to, you can just leave it with the color in the middle, or you can come on the inside of each layer and kind of just bring those darker colors in, and it looks really beautiful. So I'm doing probably 3 or 4 roses, and then we're going to move on to some tulips. Okay, so the tulips are super simple. You're really just doing 3 different strokes that start with like a point at the top and meet at the bottom, making it more of a circular motion. So I'm grabbing just like a really vibrant pink and doing the first layer of our tulip. So we'll come back a bit later and add some more colors once it's more dry. So as you can see, these kind of look like, what are they called? Those spoon forks? Sporks at first, and then we'll come in with like a darker color for our second layer, and it really just brings the pretty tulip feel right into the flowers. So now we're going to move on to these little blue flowers, and I'm just mixing just like a regular blue with a little bit of red to make it more warm, and then putting the blue flowers just randomly throughout. So I'm having them start more towards the bottom of the paper and come up towards and up past those roses. And each flower has like 4 or 5 petals. Sometimes they'll have 6, but they're not going to be your, like, every single flower is the same. The ones that are lower are going to be bigger. And then as you go up and have them, you'll have them get smaller and smaller. And the petals are more organic, so you're really not paying much attention to what they look like right now, as long as you can have like a center that you can see that we can dab some of that yellow in at the end. Awesome. So once you have that first layer of blue down, we are going to move on to more of an orange flower. But just so you know, we're going to come back in with those blue flowers and add just a little bit more dark, and then add yellow once that is dry. So we're going to move on to more of a peach color. So you can mix that, and then we're going to just add it kind of throughout the whole thing. So you can do some roses or even just like some circles or bulbs. You can see what I'm talking about. Really, the important thing with these different colors is that you make sure that it's symmetric, that there's colors kind of throughout the whole thing. It's not overdone in one area and then nothing on the other side. So we're moving on to the tulips, and really I'm just grabbing a darker pink and I'm adding it to a shaded side. So I've chosen the left side, and I'm doing the bottom of the flower and the side. So once you've done that, we're moving on to the blue, which I'm just mixing like a darker blue / purple and dropping it into the middle of those flowers. And then we're going to wait for that to dry, and then we can put in just a few drops of yellow for the seeds. All right, we are on to the last part of these flowers, which is the stems and leaves. So it's really simple. These do not need to be perfect. We're kind of just bringing green into wherever there's white space. And I'm going to be mixing two different greens. I have a foresty, more neutral green that I'm doing first, and I'm kind of just putting it randomly through with my stems and leaves, and then I'm going to also come in with a more vibrant green. So you can choose where you want them. I'm just going to be doing them kind of sporadically. And as you can see on my leaves, a lot of them I leave a little bit of white space in the middle to show where the stem of the leaf is. So it's okay if your green bleeds into your flowers a little bit. It really just adds just that much more interest. Now is the time, once you're done with the green, is to come in with any finishing touches that you want to do to your flowers. So if you're wanting to add some more contrast, or really whatever you want to do to finish those flowers off, now's the time. I hope you love this little meadow because I think it turned out so cute. If you are ready to move on, we're going to grab a pencil and sketch out just the basic shapes of this bunny before we get painting. All right, I have my number 2 pencil, and we're just going to do the body of the bunny first. So you can do like a little arch for the shoulders, and then add just a regular oval on top, adding in those puffy cheeks afterwards. So once you have that, you can add in those ears, and then on the top little section, you can put where those darker sections of the ears are. And then you can add in the eyes and the nose. I want you to draw as light as you can, just because when you paint over your pencil, you can't get rid of those marks. So you want to draw as light as you can so that your pencil doesn't show it through as well. Okay, if you're anything like me, animals can be a little intimidating. Fur in general is hard. Well, I thought was hard, but we're going to break it down. It's actually more simple than you think. We're just going in layers. So the first thing that we're going to do is add just a light yellow. So this is very diluted. So as you can see, I have my puddle of like a brown yellow, and I have a lot of water in it. So it's very diluted. And you're just kind of going in like little strokes with the tip of your brush, leaving some white space, but for the most part, you can just fill it in because it's the bottom layer. So with watercolor, a lot of you may know this, but you work from lights to darks. So we're doing this light yellow, and then we're going to leave some white space for some pink, and that's the color we're going to do next. And then we're going to come in with darker layers as we go. So on the face, the direction of the brush goes outwards. So if you can think like by the eyes, the brush stroke will be going up and down, and by the nose and mouth, you're going to be stroking outwards. So once you have that, as you can see, I'm leaving a little bit of space for my pink cheeks and ears. And then we'll come in also into a little bit of the body, but we're just going to put it on top of that yellow. All right, so we're going to mix just a slightly darker brown to come in with those shaded areas of the bunny. So underneath the mouth, on the upper shoulders, and on the sides. And then we'll also come in between the eyes and up by the ears. So if you are wanting more contrast, like on the original bunny on the left, where you can see the separate strokes, I would wait a little longer until your first layer is completely dry. Because of time, I'm just going to show you what it looks like to have a wet on wet version, and that just kind of lets those colors bleed together a little bit more, but still looks really beautiful. So once you have that, we're gonna move a little bit darker again. So I'm gonna do a little bit more of a brown, but I'm adding a tiny bit of black into it so it has a gray tint. I know it looks a little bit scary right now without the eyes and the nose, but I promise it will come together. There is such thing as an ugly stage of painting, and that's what we're in right now, but it will get better. So what we're going to do is I'm grabbing a little bit more pink and I'm just adding it to those light areas and where I want just a little bit more color in my bunny. So I have my pink and I'm just dropping it in, and then we're going to let it dry and come back in to add just a little bit more detail before we add in the eyes and the nose. I've mixed my gray and I'm just going to bring it in and add it to where I want those shaded areas. And this is also the time that, because that bottom layer is mostly dry, this is where you can add just a few more of those like little strokes to make it look just a little bit more realistic with the fur. So I'm coming in using very light pressure as I fill in around the body, and then as I come in on the outside of those cheeks and up by the ears, I'm just adding a little bit more fur, basically. Okay, last thing is we are adding in those black eyeballs and our black nose and mouth. So you can just grab, I'm using very little water, so just enough to get the pigment, and dabbing it onto my eyes. So as you can see, I'm leaving a little bit of white on both eyeballs. That shows some reflection. And then on the nose, the upper part of the nose is more thick, and then you're going to use very light pressure as you go down and then doing the mouth of the bunny. But as you can see, I promised that it would come together with the face being added, and it does. Look how cute this bunny is. Okay friends, that is it for this video. Thank you for following along, and I will see you next week.